Hi, I wanted to give some instructions here on the Cnidarian comparison activity. So, learning intention on this one, we're learning about how to classify organisms so we can figure out how biologically similar they are to each other. These are all going to be in the phylum Cnidaria, but we have different classes that we're going to be exploring. So, our success criteria, I'll be successful when I can research the biological features of different types of Cnidarians. I can compare the similarities and differences of different types of Cnidarians to one another, and I can compare cnidarians to sponges to identify what makes them different from each other. So, again, looking back at our last assignment, comparing them to porifera. So, for each classification of cnidarian, you're going to fill out this chart here. So, for example, the type of cnidarian listed in the first row is anthozoan. So, I included a search phrase for each one. So it says here, try searching with quotation species of anthozoans. So I'm going to highlight that text, copy it, and paste it. And when I do that, it should give me a series of options like this. And again, you can click for like 42 more. There's quite a few options that I can select from here from my Anthozoa. So let's say that I go with this one here, the organ pipe coral. When I click on that, it'll again give me a little sub entry and then a magnifying glass with either the common name or the scientific name of that organism. And when I click that, it'll pull up Google results. It'll still show some other related species, but everything underneath that should just be related to the one species you selected. So again, it brings up like the Wikipedia page for it, which should be pretty helpful, but other things as well, like images related to it. So once you've narrowed it down to a single species like that, I want you to give me the name of the example cnidarian. Common name is fine, but if you only have the scientific name, use that. A picture of that example cnidarian. Again, the image search should help you with that part. I want to know its scientific class. It should belong to either Anthozoa, Cubozoa, Hydrozoa, or Cyphozoa, our primary classes that we're looking at for cnidarians. I want to know what symmetry it has, asymmetry or radial symmetry. Again, for cnidarians, asymmetry happens most often with your colonial cnidarians like corals. Radial symmetry tends to be the ones that have a shape that's kind of like a polyp, or the medusa shape where it's like a bell with tentacles dangling down underneath it, that typical jellyfish shape. And then I want to know about the habitat, mostly if it lives in freshwater or saltwater. Most of your cnidarians will live in saltwater, but there are some interesting exceptions that live in freshwater. But if you find additional details like reefs or certain depths that they live at, that's also interesting information to include, maybe the temperature of the water. So you can take those into consideration. Once you're done filling out the chart, you've got two reflection questions that are similar to what we did on the sponge one. What do you notice that all the example cnidarians have in common? Think about some of the common characteristics of cnidarians we mentioned in class. So again, just something that makes that group all similar to one another. And then two, what do you notice that is different between all the example cnidarians? Just what differences you observe based on the data that you collected. And then this last chart here at the bottom, we've now learned about the phylum Porifera, the sponges, and phylum Cnidaria, jellyfish and their relatives. Fill out the chart below to compare the similarities and differences between both phyla. List at least one example for each column, but you can list as many as you want. So again, this isn't exactly a Venn diagram, but I was trying to go for something similar to that. On the left here, I only want to see features that sponges have. On the right, I want to see features that only cnidarians have. And in the middle, stuff that they share. There is some overlap between these two groups of animals, so anything that's an overlapping feature can go in the middle. So again, at least one feature per column, but if you think of some other things to include, go ahead and include them. The more variety we get, the more interesting the discussion is for it. So that's basically it. Again, mostly you are researching cnidarians of your choice and then doing some comparison work between cnidarians and the sponges from before. So I hope you find it interesting to kind of research some specific cnidarians that just appear interesting to you. And again, should be pretty straightforward. Hope you get the info together and we can use that for some comparison.